Hello, Kirby. Thank you very much for your time today, for to have this little interview. I would like to start by asking you, in what ways growing up in a family that owns a company that is more than 100 years old has affected you?
Well, growing up in a family business is certainly a really powerful experience and influence that's shaped a lot of my path and direction with my professional aspirations and career. And from early on, I recall the dinner table conversations as my dad would come home from working in the family business and hearing about what our family was doing and how we were expanding and the nature of the lumber industry, which is what the business is, originating back in the late 1800s. And it really was incredibly inspiring to have this entity that was all driven by the values of the family and always came back to the family as a focus. And so that has always inspired me and really made me passionate about the power that the family business has unique to any other kind of organizational or other kind of structure. And so today it's probably not ironic that I work for and enjoy seeing the growth and development of families with enterprises, with wealth, with family offices, and how they're building bridges for sustainability, how they're thinking about their futures, and how they're investing so that in 7 generations, another family lineage will be talking about, where they've come from and where they're headed.
Can you share with me about the role of women in your family company? There were any role models for you there?
Well, women have played an interesting role in our family, not so directly in the business as, in fact, if you think back about the lumber industry, not a lot of women actually were lumbermen, lumberjacks. You don't hear the term lumberjill out there. And so originally, there was not a lot of involvement from women in our family enterprise, but they played a critical role in the family system. They were the ones focused on the relationships, the connections, and really intense about supporting a lot of the men in our family who were integral. So my father, who was a married-in, so a son-in-law, was very involved in the family business, which was largely my window into the family enterprise. My grandfather had 4 daughters, and so none of my mom or her sisters actually came into the business. And so now in its 4th generation of ownership, I'm generation 4, there's more involvement. I've recently been appointed to a board seat on the company. So I sense that there's, a transition from maybe women not being as involved to women being more involved in the family enterprise.
Your work shows a passion for family business and especially for helping women. I would like to know a bit more about what is behind your passion for helping women in family businesses. What do you want to achieve with your work for them?
Well, this topic is near and dear to my heart, and it was the focus of my dissertation research for my PhD. And the reality is not all women are necessarily going to start their family enterprise or an enterprise, but they very well may become owners or controlling owners or influential owners at some point. And the reality is that historically there's been a major disconnect between women and wealth and women in business ownership. And so when I began this exploration of what's women's role and relationship to wealth, I started to look back historically to how women have functioned. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating topic. It's one I could talk to you for hours on. But to give you some of the highlights, I think what I came away with is that the reality of today, where women are far more empowered, they are leading the ranks in terms of graduate school admittance. They are thriving in the workplace. There's more women, I think, now than men who are actually employed. They're controlling about 1/3 of the wealth globally. So there's some major shifts, but historically there's still some challenges that we haven't achieved, we haven't bridged. And so again, back to the research that I've done, I hope to enlighten women and men about the important role that women can play. And then here's a little sort of secret, but women are genetically built differently, right? Our DNA is not the same as men, and so for whatever reason, we live on average about 5 to 7 years longer than men. So a lot of times in families, we focus on the generational transfer from one generation to the next. But in many families, what will precede that transfer will be the wealth that transfers from husband to wife, because the wife will likely be the last touch point on that generation. They will leave their family imprint for that generation before it transfers. And so when it comes to business and when it comes to wealth, it's so important that women are involved and engaged, because if they're not, we miss an opportunity, a huge opportunity, to really inform the next generation or whatever the goals and aspirations are of the couple.
Can you tell me more about what have you learned from your research? Oh, I'm losing my voice. From your research about women in family businesses?
Well, women in family business, is increasingly a hot topic, and what the Women in Wealth study started to provide clarity around is the varying attitudes and perceptions, perceived knowledge, different intentions, and what actually came out very intensely was not just from the Women in Wealth study, but we followed it on with the Men in Wealth study. And when we compared both samples, what we started to learn is that men and women actually have very similar values and similar goals and intentions with their wealth. However, when it comes to women's operationalizing how they get to, those goals, it's very different than men. What do I mean by this? So women oftentimes want to learn collaboratively. They want to partner with their advisors and with their cohorts to achieve those goals. And there's not necessarily a high locus of control that they exhibit in their attitudes around wealth and business interests. Whereas, there's a much higher degree of confidence exhibited by the men. And that showed up in, for example, their perception of knowledge. We asked both men and women how much they knew about estate planning and investing and a number of different areas of business. And what was interesting is that we didn't give an IQ test, so I don't know exactly what their knowledge levels are, but in all areas, men rated themselves higher than women. So the perception was that I feel more confident. And the response we got from a lot of women in the study was, well, he created the wealth, or he's more passionate around the business, and so I'm happy that he wants to do this, and I don't do it as much because he's more passionate around it. Excuse me. And so this varying attitude helps us to see that there's a gender lens that can inform how women engage in business, how they engage with their wealth, and what they may be looking for from their advisors.
What kind of research are you currently working on?
Well, I'm really excited because this year we've wrapped up a study on sustaining the family enterprise, which looked at the relationship of the family business to the family office. This study has been going on for 4 years, and I was lucky enough to work with some brilliant researchers from Spain, Juan Rore from ESA Business School, Juan Luis Gerardo from ESA, as well as Diane Welsh from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And so we had the chance to investigate the relationship of governance and entrepreneurial orientation and its impact to sustaining the family enterprise. So how does governance and the decision-making in a family influence how they sustain their family business, their family office, and likewise, how important is entrepreneurial orientation or the spirit of entrepreneurship in a family to creating new wealth in the family enterprise. So that study is available if anyone's interested at the Jen Spring Family Office's website. And that's also informed a lot of the work that I'm presently doing as I am on sabbatical writing a book for family offices. It's more of a layperson practical application guide, and it will be published hopefully next year by Wiley.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, Kirby, thank you very much for your time today. Well, I hope to read that book soon.
Well, I look forward to being able to share some more insights that I've learned from some magnificent families in the U.S. and around the world. And, I really am honored and thankful to have this chance to talk to you today.
Thank you. Bye-bye then.